today we're gonna be talking about my craziest injuries. Bah!
Boys, in my lifetime, I have had a very fair amount of injuries. I would say maybe a little bit on the light side, but overall, I've had a fair experience with them. And today I wanted to share some of them with you, to talk about some of my near-death experiences, the times where I came close to meeting the Grim Reaper. Now, my first story for today takes place a couple years back in about 2021, and this was summer. Now, my family doesn't go on a lot of vacations, so whenever they do, it's a pretty big thing, and this time we went to Florida, the godless land, as I like to call it. And just like every Floridian does in the summer, we went to the beach, and it was pretty cool until I decided to solo raw dog a floaty in ocean water. Now, prior to this, I wasn't very scared of the ocean. However, if I think I were to go back, I think I definitely would be a lot scareder now that I'm older. But on this particular lackadaisical day, I decided to go on a floaty by myself in the water. What the hell just happened? Now, this was at about midday after we'd already gotten back from doing a couple activities beforehand, and I had been at the beach for a couple hours at this point, so I was getting kind of tired, which should have been a sign for me not to go on this raft now that I think about it, but either way, I still decided to, and once I did, it wasn't long before I had literally fallen asleep, and I just fell. Let's go. Now, I wasn't fully asleep here, not completely knocked out, but I was doing the thing you do in, like, the middle of class when your teacher's talking and you don't understand it, so you slowly start to drift away and stop really being able to pay attention, but you still kind of hear the shit. That's what I was doing with, like, my hand in the water, just looking at the water. And it probably took me, no lie, maybe 10 to 15 minutes for me to, like, come to and realize that, hey, maybe I should pay attention because I'm actively being swept away by the waters right now. And once I did realize that I was probably about 100 feet away from the beach at this point, I started to kind of freak out because I'd never really gotten far away from the shore, I guess. And my fat ass self was not going to be able to swim back to this, so my only hope was paddling. Now, eventually, after a little bit of paddling, I was able to get back to shore fine. I wasn't harmed or anything. I was probably a little sunburnt, but, you know, who doesn't get sunburned? And it took me till, like, an hour after, whenever I was sitting on the beach, still realizing that I was really far out, and it was really stupid to fall asleep just letting the water take me wherever God wants me to go. But that one, overall, I'd say was pretty tame. I mean, I didn't die, but if I had actually fallen asleep there, I could have easily gone 300-400 feet away from the shore and then ended up like fucking Tom Cruise in that one movie. Now, the next one that I have for you guys took place a lot more recently, and the funny thing about this one is it's about my school, and my entire school knows about my channel. So, hi guys, it's Evan. Now, this specific story takes place at lunch, and normally I'm sitting with my giant friend group of all my amazing friends, as I am very popular, and I go over very well with the women. But no matter what, every single day, after sitting at this table, oh my god, for like 5 to 10 minutes, I'll start to get bored. And me and getting bored is not a good thing to happen. So whenever I get bored, I just start going around and doing random stuff, talking to random people, and being pretty social. Now, I was doing my normal thing of just kind of walking around, talking, whatever, not really doing much. But then I saw this one guy who was standing. I thought that it was kind of funny. Now, to describe how this kid was standing, it was basically like that one meme of that one suburban white kid who claims to be a rapper that stands absolutely ridiculously and says the dumbest shit in street interviews. And I thought it was pretty funny. He was standing with his heels together in like Jordan 4s, dressed up as a YN, which I have not mentioned yet. Yes, this particular character in question was a YN. Now, normally, you know, my very suburban I make YouTube videos ass is not going to be messing with any YNs, because even though I'm known for my amazing background in martial arts and all types of different combat, I'm not really trying to, you know, die. So normally I'm steering clear. But on this particular day, in this particular moment, I saw the opportunity to do something funny. So knowing your boy, what do you think I did? So I walked behind the guy and I just kind of stood how he was standing, like with my heels apart, really exaggerated, and that was basically it. There was like maybe 1 or 2 people that saw it and thought it was funny. I wasn't doing it in front of an entire crowd, but unfortunately, one of the people that did see me do this funny thing and thought it was hilarious was somebody sitting at the table that he was standing right next to. And so them being them, they had told the dude what I did. Now, pretty much immediately after sitting down, I started to see this dude walking towards my table, and I knew it was coming for me. I wasn't really looking forward to it, but I figured, you know, I have the Kangro Evan charm. I'm sure this dude's not gonna kill me over me standing weird. And he comes over to my table, he says something, and I don't hear him. And so I go, what? And then he says it again. And at this point, I'm like, okay, so I'm looking like a bitch right now. I'm only sitting next to 2 people, so I don't really give a fuck. It turns out he was saying, was you mocking the way I was standing. Now, your boy was mocking the way he was standing. So at this point, I kind of don't know what to do, as I don't associate with YNs all that much. After I think about it for a minute, I go, and I'm not even kidding, this is the closest reenactment I can do. I go, yeah. He tells me to get up and show him what I did. And if I were to go back and change anything, this is the one thing I probably wouldn't have done, because again, this just made me look like a bitch. But I get up and I do it, and he goes, don't do that shit again, or I'll really have to beat the shit out of you. And I go, okay, mind you, this is all in my white accent, but it nowhere close. I mean, I could barely get out a word this dude was saying. And so he walks back to his table, and that was really the end of that. Not gonna lie, after I had kind of sat down for a minute, I realized, wow, I really didn't get nervous during that interaction. Because I guess I really did realize there's no way this kid's about to beat me up over standing. But my friends were all kind of like freaking out. And my friends are like the basketball kids, and some of them are friends with like the YNs and shit. And even them, they were like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Calm down. Like stuff like that. Like probably dodged a really big bullet there. So it's really not a smart idea for me to be talking about this in a YouTube video. But if anybody's seeing this video, by the way, at my school, this is all completely made up and a joke and fabricated, and none of it actually happened. So we don't have to bring this up or share this with anybody, and we can stop coming up to me and going, hi, Kangro. Thank you guys, thank you. Now, my next story takes place whenever I was a wee tot, right? This was probably 6 years ago, whenever I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, and during this time, I was in gymnastics. And I was actually pretty good at gymnastics, especially for my age. I could do a lot of flips and a lot of stuff that the like 16 and 17-year-old women that I was surrounded by, as I am today, couldn't do. And one of these things that I could do, and did a million times, was a round-off backflip. How did I let that guy get past? Now, for those of you who don't know what a round-off backflip looks like, it looks like this. And I had probably done this maybe 100 to 1,000 times. I'm not even kidding. And this day is like any other day. It's very normal. Everything's happening completely fine. Nothing's out of the ordinary. And I'm on a tumble track, which is basically a really tight and sturdy trampoline that's really long, so that way you can run and do tumbling tricks on it, like round-off back handspring, layout combos, stuff like that. And I go to do this as my coach instructs me to. And for some reason this day, I decide that instead of holding in the tucking position like you're supposed to do in a backflip, like I've done no less than 1,000 times at this point, I decide that while I'm in the middle of the air, completely perpendicular to the ground, that I'm just gonna, you know, open up. This is what stops your momentum. If I open up and stop myself from being in that ball fetal position, it's gonna stop the momentum that I have going backwards. And dude, that's exactly what happened. I open up and then I literally land on my head, and my chin goes like so hard into my chest, it like left a bruise there. Now, some people might say, oh dude, you're lucky you didn't break your neck. There's no way for you to land and break your neck because your momentum's gonna carry you backwards. But you can still hurt your neck a lot, and that's what I did here. But me being the dumbass kid that I was, and still definitely am, because I'd probably do the same thing if I was in this situation today, after shaking it off for like a minute or two and trying my best not to cry in front of the, you know, group of teenage women that think I am very cute for being able to do flips at a young age, I go up and I try to do the exact same thing again. And wouldn't you know it, the exact same thing happens again. I open up in the middle of my rotation and land on the back of my head. And this time I landed like on the spring pad part of the trampoline, which is a lot harder. And it took me a couple weeks to like fully recover from this. I continue to do shit because I'm not gonna let a little boo-boo stop me from impressing the huzz. But it definitely hurt a lot. And I would somewhat call it a near-death experience, because if I fell off that trampoline and landed on my neck in the right way, I probably could have died. Now, my final one that I have for y'all today is one of my oldest memories. It's a core memory even. So my mom had just picked me up from my grandma's house, and on the way home, we stopped at this park that I had seen every single time, but have never actually gone to. And there was one guy in particular that was a little bit older, but he was just kind of playing with us. That sounds actually really dodgy now that I say it out loud, but you know, not like that. He was just kind of walking around doing cool stuff, right? He's a lot bigger than us because I'm probably like 5, and so is everybody else, and he's maybe, like I said, 20. So he's like double our height, double our weight, and he's playing on the playground in a very different way than kids who are less than 4 feet are able to. And by that I mean he's climbing on shit that you can't really climb on. He's doing flips, whatever. And at a certain point, me and my playground group of absolute ride or dies that I'll never see a day in my life decided to start a game of tag. He played with us, and he was the first to be it. And in an attempt for us to avoid him game, at the very early part of the game, we went up this giant part of the park, the highest point, and the only way to get down from this point is by a slide. And so we knew that if he were to like come up here, you know, he would have to walk up and we'd be able to leave. I think that was the thinking behind it. But this dude, being the guy he is, he just walks up the top part of the slide. And this isn't the type of slide that's like, you know, 75%, like there's no top to it. It's a full circle. And he walks up this slide and it's awesome, right? We're all like blown away because obviously we can't do anything like that and we've never seen anything like that. And so then a couple minutes later, me being the person that I am, having to impress everybody around me, I try to do the exact same thing that this fully grown man just did in front of me, as I am a 5-year-old boy who lives off of fucking PB&Js and Lunchables. And so I start walking up this slide in the same way that this guy was, but I weighed probably 40 to 60 pounds, and so I don't get the same balance or grip. And so eventually, whenever I'm about 75% of the way up this slide, I fall. And I was pretty high up at this point. I was probably 15 feet off the ground. And right next to the slide was like a metal pole fireman spinny bar thing that everybody goes down. And so I'm falling, and I hit my mouth on this metal bar thing, and my mouth starts bleeding. I hit the ground. Obviously, I'm crying. I don't even know what happened, really. And a couple seconds later, you know, my mom, who was sitting on a bench and watching the whole thing, watching me be an absolute dumbass and fall down this. It was probably hilarious. If I had the video for this, I'd probably be dying laughing. I show it to you right now. She runs over to me. She starts, you know, being a mom, whatever. You know, just boring. It's, ugh. Who needs moms? That's horrible. I had hit my bottom lip on this pole so hard that my tooth had like cut this back part of my body, like the part where people get like the tattoo that says like sit here or something on that dumb shit. And then I guess post game from this, what I do remember is that after this, my mom had taken me to like an ER. But the cool thing was, the second that I got into the ER, I was basically just telling them, yeah, it's my mouth. My mouth hurts. And they put me in a wheelchair right at the front door. And so I got to like ride around in a wheelchair, which, you know, as a 5-year-old who doesn't understand what real disabilities are, I'd always see the kids without legs and shit in wheelchairs and think it was badass. That probably wasn't my best of opinions, and I should have not said that on the internet, but that's okay. So I got to ride around like McQueen for a little bit, and then I didn't get stitches or anything. They just kind of probably gave me some medicine and cleaned it up. And then for like a month or two, I had this like really gross, like half white bubble at the bottom of my lip that just hurt. But those are some of my biggest injuries and closest to death experiences that I have had. You might say that YN experience, you know, what you weren't even close. You just threw that in the video. I didn't. All right, I could have died. I do really fucking hope this part does not see the light of day at my school, because everybody knows my channel. Can we keep this one between me and you guys? Appreciate that. Anyways, boys, I love you guys. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.